Tony Parsons and this guy Jim are probably the two leading teachers of what could be called pure Advaita, pure non-dual teaching. And the reason they're considered to be pure teachers is because they actually speak from the experience, right? So that when they interact with people and people attempt to interact with them as a person, they keep trying to clear the misunderstanding by saying, no, I'm not that. And then they go into a lot of further explanations about the experience. And what they're sharing is not a belief. What they're sharing is an experience. And the experience that they're sharing is what it's like to be what you are, what it's like for non-duality to be what's happening. And it's important to understand that non-duality is not a belief. Non-duality is not a theory. The belief and the theory is what most people consider to be reality. The belief that you're your body, the belief that you're a personality. That's theoretical, and the reason it's theoretical is simply because there is no proof that that's the case. It's as simple as that. And the thing about it is that so why is this of relevance? Why is this of important? Well, because it's the truth, and the condition in which most of humanity is living in, which is not the truth, is a function of results in suffering, results in discontent, results in fear, hatred, uncertainty, anxiety, frustration, sleeplessness, addiction, compulsion. And those things are, you can't debate the fact that that is the human condition. It's not as clearly seen as it could be because there is a tremendous degree of denial about that. The percentage of humanity that is suffering from anxiety and depression is probably closer to 100% than any of the statistics that you would come across, because most of humanity is undiagnosed. Most of humanity is undiagnosed, and they're self-medicating, or they're using some method to try and contain the situation, the condition that they're living in. So the reason that this non-duality is important is because it's the truth, and because it offers you the opportunity to come out of misery, to come out of a condition that unless you come out of, there's no way that it can go other than that you will suffer. There's no way out of it. There's no way that it can go other than you will suffer, because you, like the rest of humanity, will continue to be part of the rat race. You, like the rest of humanity, will continue to live with the misunderstanding about who you are and misunderstanding about reality, so that you will continue to live in this ongoing process of temporary gratification, and then that turns into discontent, and this ongoing process of seeking, this ongoing process of trying, this ongoing process of wanting to be able to control what's happening, of wanting to consistently feel pleasure, or consistently feel contentment, or consistently experience being happy. And if you're going to be honest about it, especially if you've been on the planet for a while, if you're going to be honest about it and you look and see, it's not hard to see that that's the case. It's not hard to see that, that you, like the rest of humanity, is looking forward. You, like the rest of humanity, is either looking backwards or forward, hoping for things in the future, looking forward to the end of the week, looking forward to the end of the day, looking forward to the end of the career, looking forward to the next thing that's going that we hope is going to be the thing that's going to have it all work. And it's naive. If you go back and examine, how did this all happen? Well, it's the same way it happens when a child believes in Santa Claus. Right? When a little kid believes in Santa Claus, first of all, the child has this dependence on adults, right? The child is dependent on adults to inform the child about what's real. And so when they're told that there's a Santa Claus, and then they see this character in a red suit in books, and around Christmas they see him in the mall, and they hear the stories, and there seems to be agreement about it, that there is a Santa Claus. So the kid doesn't question it. The kid just accepts, okay, there's a Santa Claus, and then the game is on. And of course, the idea that there's a Santa Claus then sets up the opportunity to use the existence of Santa Claus to keep the kid in line, right? You won't get your gifts at Christmas time unless you behave yourself. But when the time comes, now in the case of the rest of us, it's no different really. You learn to believe that the body you see in the mirror is you, just like the kid learns that the guy in the red suit is Santa Claus. The only difference between the kid and the rest of humanity is we never come out of the illusion. This is actually, when you come across this message and these teachings, it's actually an opportunity to find out, just like there's no Santa Claus, there's no person. Just like there's no Santa Claus, the body that you see in the mirror is not you. Just like there's no Santa Claus. The only thing that's different about it is that, most of humanity is agreeing that there is a Santa Claus, there is a person, you are your body. And so you're up against that kind of agreement. That kind of agreement is so pervasive that it seems as though for you not to believe that would be an odd thing to do, not to believe that, given how pervasive the idea is that things are what they are. And yet it is the case, and yet it is the truth, even though it's not a popular understanding, or it's not accepted, generally speaking. It is the case and it is the truth. And the way that you can know that it is the case and it is the truth is to find out by looking to see what the evidence reveals. Non-duality is total freedom, because in non-duality there is no one to suffer. There is no person to be neurotic. There is no person to be depressed. There is no person to be anxious. And that's just the truth. It's just the way it is. Now, of course, when you hear that, the way the mind will work with that is to say, well, what do you mean? If there's no person, then what is there? If there's no person, then what will be there? And the answer to that is, what will be there is the truth. What will be there is what's happening, which is what is there all the time, which is the only thing that is there all the time, is what's happening. The idea that it's happening to you is something that the brain keeps adding to what's happening, right? I tell you, when you meditate, if you pay attention, you'll see, right, that what's there, what's actually there when you're meditating is, when you pay attention, what is there is the breath. What is there is the breath. There's an awareness of the breath, right? And if you actually pay attention, actually look, where is the person meditating? There is no person meditating. It's there to be seen. It's not a belief, it's not a mystery. It's not there. People develop this idea because there is a contraction, a physical contraction called the body, and there's this perception of there being an I. This is what they call the I thought. There's a perception of there being an I, and the I that is here is separate from everything that's not it. that's out there. See, the thing is, you have to catch it. You have to catch it. See, the idea that you are your body is happening so fast, you can't outgun it. You can't catch it. See, we're so habitually, completely conditioned. Saying is that there is no evidence. Please look. Please look. Because what you can do, you've suffered the belief in Santa Claus. You've suffered the belief in Santa Claus. When a kid hears that it's not true, right? Do you guys still believe in Santa Claus? No, it's obvious that it's just not real, right? The same exact thing is true about the way you identify yourself to be a body and a personality. It's the same thing as Santa Claus. Once you see it, once you're clear about it, once you recognize it, right? Once you recognize it and you see it, right? This is what enlightenment is all about. You recognize, you see it. It's the end of something that never existed. That's why you'll hear, when you hear this guy talk, he'll say, if somebody says to him, well, when did you stop being a person? And his answer is, I never stopped being a person because I never was a person. How could I stop being something I never was? That's the thing that's tricky, right, for the mind, right? The mind thinks something has to stop and something has to start. No, nothing has to happen. If you wake up and you experience non-duality, nothing will have happened. Everything will be the same as it was, right? Except that you won't be confused about the idea that you're separate from what's happening. Even the you that you are operating as, see, this is the thing, if you can get this can help. Even the you that you're operating as is part of just what's happening. It's not separate from it. That's where the freedom is, right? Because now there is no separate person, there is no separate body from the world and from other people. Once that separation is believed in, once that separation is considered to be real, all the rest of the shit falls out of that. All the rest of the shit falls out of that. That's what war is about, isn't it? That's what crime is about, isn't it? That's what the conflict that people have in relationships is about. That's why people can't get along with one another, because they're reacting, they're coming from fear. They're trying to protect themselves. All of the craziness, all of the neurotic reality, all of the misery, all of the stuff that goes on every day in the world falls out of that mistake, falls out of that belief. It's as simple as that. And when you see that it's not real and it's not true, when you stop believing in Santa Claus, right, you're in a different world. You're not in a world where you're separate from everything anymore. You don't have anything to protect anymore because there's no separation. That's what's happening. It's not who I really am, and it's not separate from the rest of what's happening. It's just part of what's happening. It appears to be so. I appear to do what I do. I appear to think. I appear to have feelings. When you are being awareness, you don't have to be aware that you're awareness. You are awareness. Right? When you know that all there is what's happening, right? The way it's talked about through these pure non-dualist people is what's happening is nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. In other words, what's happening is what shows up, and it's coming from nothing. Ultimately, we don't know what it is, right? We can conceptualize it any way we want. People do, right? Ultimately, we don't know what it is. All we know is that that's what's happening.
But they're trying to share that perception.
Well, what they say is that they're not trying to share the perception. That's just what's happening. That's why it's valuable to look at this, because you'll find yourself in the position the audience is in, won't you, Bob? You'll find yourself getting what he's saying. The thing is, you find yourself getting what he's saying, and yet somehow you can't relate to it. You can't identify with it.
He seems to narrow it down to, I think, one phrase. He says, there is no one and there is nothing. something along those lines. It's like you're just not here. You don't exist.
Well, and
As the person.
yeah, but there is an appearance. There is an appearance that's happening. The mistake is that you are real and you exist. But that doesn't mean that there isn't an appearance. There is an appearance. There is something happening. Right? And what's happening is nothing showing up as something. You know, the thing Paul Hederman says about this, and the reason that there's a difference between this and what people like Rupert Spira teach and what I teach, is because you can't walk around in life and not be a person. That's not the point. The people who speak this way, they still operate in life the way everybody else does, but they know the difference. That's all. You know, I mean, if you wake up and you see the truth and you know who you really are, don't tell anybody. That's not going to go over well. But, you know, the thing about this is that the reason I don't speak from there, I mean, you know, I could learn how to speak from there, you know, so that I could interact with you that way. But what would be the point? It's like Paul Hederman said, you know, that there was a period of time when he was into the pure Advaita teaching, and the story he tells about it is he was living in Australia at the time, and his girlfriend asked him to do the dishes when she went out, and when she came back he hadn't done the dishes, and she said, "What happened, Paul? I asked you to do the dishes." And he said, "There is no Paul, so how could I do the dishes?" And she said, "You know, do the goddamn dishes." So, but what Paul's trying to get across by telling that story is, while these pure non-dualists are actually speaking from the reality of non-duality, right? That's not where most people are experiencing themselves to be, right? So if you're going to be useful, if you're going to be helpful in terms of getting people to get to a place where they see things for what they are, you have to talk to them where they are. You know, if I talk to you as if you're not a person and I'm just confusing you constantly, what good am I doing you? You know, I was out at a conference at one point, and I was sitting next to a guy at lunch, and he was talking about this guy who was a spiritual teacher. He's actually the guy who created this form of Tai Chi Cha that I practice. And he was talking about the different situations where this guy would make these comments about what was going on that nobody understood what he was talking about. And the guy said, "It's terrible. It was a terrible waste. Nobody got him. Nobody got his message." And I'm thinking, well, then he failed if nobody got his message, right? What good is it for you to be some profound person who's speaking these things that nobody understands, and then the way you comment on it is, "Oh, it's tragic, nobody got his message"? He failed. So that's the reason why Rupert talks the way he talks and I talk the way I talk, because you know, I want to meet you where you're at, and we'll go from there together to where there is to go. And right now you may believe in Santa Claus, but we'll work it out. Right now you may believe you are a person, but we'll work that out. One of the things you have to do in order for that to be the case is you have to appreciate and understand that this is very important for you to wake up. It's very important for you to see the truth. It's very important for you to get free from the limitations and the misery that will continue to be the case unless you wake up.